afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you're joining us from. My name is Taryn Quayle. I'm from ICLEI Local Governments for Sustainability Africa, and I'll be your moderator for today's session. And we'd like to start by welcoming you to the Making Cities Resilient 2030 Cities and Partners Engagement in Africa session. The Sendai framework clearly outlines the importance of vertical collaboration between various levels of government for resilience building. In the same breath, it highlights the need to empower local governments as key drivers of resilient communities. Studies have revealed the discrepancies between the power and authority of local governments versus their capacities to prevent new risks, reducing existing risks, and to mitigate unavoidable risks. Calling for an inclusive, multi-stakeholder approach, experts agree that creating cooperation is critical in addressing both the financial and the technical capacity gaps that often face our local governments. Numerous tools and methodologies have been developed to support local level disaster risk reduction and resilience activities. The question remains, to what extent are these being applied? What are those success stories, and how can we overcome these established challenges? Through peer-to-peer learning and experience exchange, local governments can better articulate lessons learned and give room to both profile and discuss innovative solutions. This session has three objectives. The first is to provide an overview and an introduction to MCR 2030, what this entails and how it can help cities strengthen disaster risk reduction challenges, to demonstrate how cities can join MCR 2030 and access resources from partner organizations through the online dashboard, and finally to document recommendations on promoting the initiative. This session will be divided into two parts, each with a presentation followed by a question and answer session. So please do feel free to add your questions into the chat and we will try and address them as we move through the session. We have two presenters today. We have Isabel joining us from the UNDRR Regional Office in Africa, and we have Mutarika or Mai joining us from the UNDRR Global Education and Training Institute. So we'd like to welcome both of our presenters today and jump straight in so that we have plenty of time for discussion and questions, and hand over to Isabel from the Regional Office in Africa, who's going to tell us what is MCR 2030. Isabel, over to you.
Thank you, Taryn. My name is Isabel Njihia, and I am joining you from Nairobi. I am based at the Regional Office for Africa for UNDRR, and my work focuses on the implementation of the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction at the local level in the African region. Today, I would like to share a presentation with you on the Making Cities Resilient 2030 and go over what it means and how we can leverage it for increased resilience in our region. Before I get into my presentation, I would like to begin by posing two questions for us to reflect on. My first question is your city resilient? And my second, does its resilience help citizens prosper and flourish? As I urge you to join other cities on a pathway to resilience, making the city safer, preventing risks, and promoting innovation and investments, please let these questions be our guiding star in this conversation. As you know, cities across the globe are challenged by increasing disaster, climate, and other risks, such as the COVID-19 pandemic, and we can no longer afford hazard by hazard risk reduction approach. Making Cities Resilient 2030, or MCR 2030 in short, is a unique cross-stakeholder initiative for improving local resilience through advocacy, sharing knowledge and experiences, establishing city-to-city learning networks, injecting technical expertise, connecting multiple levels of government, and building partnerships. MCR 2030 builds on the success of the MCR campaign, which ran from 2010 to 2020. The MCR campaign, led by the UNDRR and delivered with partners, achieved considerable success in promoting urban disaster resilience through government authorities. It advocated the need to reduce risk and develop urban resilience through analysis and action plan development. The MCR campaign also helped cities in the sense of advocating for disaster risk reduction and helping them to develop strategies that would then be transformed into bankable projects for financing. It raised awareness among the cities and the understanding of systemic issues and their connectedness, and through this process, built the local capacity. It also created and strengthened stakeholder partnerships. Over 4,300 cities joined the campaign in the past decade and also adopted the 10-point checklist that we have been referring to as the 10 essentials for making cities resilient. And indeed, we have seen that cities that joined the MCR campaign have made greater progress in reducing disaster risk than other cities that have not gone through a similar process of disaster risk awareness. Some of the key lessons that we have learned in the past decade are: one, the journey of resilience for cities is unique and it differs from one city to another. And also the fact that cities need access to different tools, different methodologies, partners, and services at different stages in the journey of resilience. We've also seen the need in many cases where we need to really strengthen the synergies among partners in terms of building the collaborative channels, and also ensuring that whatever initiatives we design and implement in the cities are actually done in coherence with other global frameworks, taking advantage of the resources that are available on the ground. One of the other lessons that we've learned is that access to finance still remain one of the biggest hurdles when it comes to building resilience in cities, and that cities are the best teachers for cities, in the sense that through peer-to-peer learning, cities are able to learn more memorable lessons, as opposed to having experts actually speaking to them who are not local government leaders. We have seen the need and the gaps that exist in terms of vertical integration between the different levels of government, and especially between the national and local government authorities, as well as with the associations of municipalities or local governments at the national level. And the need for private sector to actually be brought on board to help build the resilience of local governments and the people at the local level. So what does MCR 2030 bring on board to try and build on the lessons that we've learned from the MCR campaign? The first is, through understanding that resilience is a journey, MCR 2030 has provided a roadmap, a resilience roadmap for cities that helps them define the commitments they need to make at every stage, and also helps them keep track of their progress in the journey. We've also brought together a group of partners that have actually been behind the whole development and design of MCR 2030, who are bringing on board different expertise and different networks to try and bridge the gap between urban resilience, disaster risk reduction, climate change, and bringing all this together, tying them all together with the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, to ensure that we are creating synergy enough to keep the MCR 2030 entities and cities connected, and with the global policies as well. We are also bringing together a regional network of actors to enhance that the implementation in the different contexts, and especially in our region. And we have a governance structure that actually defines how we collaborate at the different levels, the regional level and as well as the global level, to ensure that we have that linkage going on. We have seen a suite of tools and knowledge guidance that is continuing to enrich day by day as more partners come on board and actually offer different services for the cities at the different stages, as we're going to see shortly. We have an online dashboard, which is the MCR 2030 dashboard that Mai will be talking about later, that brings together the cities and the partners, and also helps cities be able to record and monitor their progress along the resilience roadmap. And the directory of specialist service providers is also being developed right now, and will be updated so that cities are able to know which kind of partners to contact for the different needs that they have. So moving into the decade of action, we have seen that cities need more guidance and capacity development in many technical areas, ranging from awareness and strategic planning to effective implementation of risk-informed urban development plans. And MCR 2030 moves beyond the advocacy and awareness raising that was done by the MCR campaign, and now supports cities to assess their resilience status, accelerate the development of local DRR strategies in response to Target E of the Sendai framework, integrate disaster risk reduction with climate change adaptation and sustainable development, and then implement those strategies with the support from local, regional, and global partners. Because what we know is that reducing risk and building resilience is a journey. The MCR 2030 programmatic approach is actually built around a 3-stage resilience roadmap that guides cities on how to improve resilience over time. And these 3 roadmaps have the 3 strategic objectives are aligned with the 3 strategic objectives of the MCR 2030. And these strategic objectives are basically to help cities know better, to help them plan better, and to help them implement better. And you can see for every stage, the different commitments are actually specified there on what the city needs to commit to at every stage and what they need to also implement to be able to move to the next stage. The MCR 2030 also provides, partnership and a suite of tools I had mentioned earlier. And all these are actually the services that are provided by our partners are classified into 12 thematic areas as indicated. These 12 thematic areas are used to align our efforts as partners in terms of classifying what we're going to do for each of the different stages of the cities and provide them with what they need aligned to what the stage itself calls for in terms of the gaps and the needs that are identified. We have, when you look at the website, you'll be able to see the 12 thematic areas, and you'll also be able to identify as a partner which areas you want to provide services in or you want to deliver your mandate in. Now, when you look again at the whole roadmap, you're able to see that there is space for basically all sorts of entities that we have in the different categories of partners, including national governments, local government associations, the CSOs, academia, research institutions, the private sector, UN entities, or other organizations that are interested that can be able to provide specific knowledge and expertise that can support cities to progress along the resilience roadmap. We are encouraging all these entities to actually join and help us and together we can support the local governments in making cities resilient. In the same breath, we're encouraging cities to actually join so that they can take advantage of the resources on board as we aim to ensure that cities become inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable by 2030, contributing directly to the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goal 11 and other global frameworks, including the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction, the Paris Agreement, and the New Urban Agenda. Key to remember is that the Resilience Roadmap is flexible and iterative. Cities can join MCR 2030 at any stage, gaining access to a wide range of tools and technical advisory inputs delivered by partners. As we commit to progress on the Resilience Roadmap, cities, as I said earlier, are actually able to move from one stage to the other and are able to keep moving in terms of progressing in their resilience journey as their needs evolve and even as they reach the different milestones. So at the end of the day, what we are looking at, at the end of the day, we were looking at getting cities to get to the end of stage C, where they have mainstreamed resilience and are focusing on monitoring and evaluation to ensure that the level of resilience achieved is maintained. The Resilience Roadmap has supported our understanding that resilience building is a process and that the resilience journey of each city, again, is very unique. This roadmap not only helps cities to understand the pathway to resilience more clearly, but it also helps partners match their tools and guidance and support them at the stage that they are actually in and to increase efficiency. We have ongoing conversations with national governments that are now joining and supporting entities, giving them access to the city's progress, and are actually able to also publish the services that they're offering to support their cities. So looking at now the strategic objectives of the MCR 2030, we've talked about what it's doing and why it's important. But looking at the strategic objectives, we can see that the first objective is basically to promote the understanding of risk, helping cities actually improve what they know in terms of the risks that they're exposed to. We're seeing also the fact that we need to focus on helping these cities build their capacities to develop local strategies and resilience plans, and to also be able to implement these local strategies and plans. We have three also cross-cutting objectives. One being strengthening the vertical linkages, especially between local governments and the national governments, and strengthening horizontal links among not just the local partners, but also the different departments within the local governments. There is also the other big issue that is a cross-cutting objective in this case, that is connecting cities with cities so that they can learn and share more. And this, I can tell you, is going on very well on the dashboard, as you'll get to see shortly. So looking onto the next stage, we've talked about the resilience journey and how cities can move from one stage to another. And here you're able to see that for a city to move, say, from stage A to B, where they are, in a state where they're focusing on knowing better, they need to conduct an awareness event or a publicity event outside the government. So it's not just building the capacity of the officials of the city, but also building the capacity of the citizens to understand what disasters or what has risks they're actually exposed to. We also see that they have to also conduct an orientation workshop within the city council so that they understand the concepts and understand what is needed. And in this orientation workshop, we're envisioning a situation where the city officials actually start working on a disaster risk reduction or resilience action plan or strategy. At this point, we are hoping that cities would be able to also put together multi-sectoral committees that would be focused on resilience building. Once these three achievements are done, or these three milestones are achieved, then the city can move from stage A to B, where now the commitments change, and here they now have to complete the strategy that they started developing and get it approved or endorsed either by the council of the municipal council, if that's the approving body, or the mayor signing it off, or the governor signing it off, or such situations. We also see then that at this point that the city would now move from stage B to stage C. In stage C, the cities are being called to mainstream and institutionalize DRR and the strategies themselves in terms of helping them implement those strategies. At the same time, we're asking them to, build the access to finance, whether domestic or otherwise. So here we'll be providing with partners services such as financial literacy in terms of how do you put together bankable projects for a proposal, how do you access the different financing tools that are available and take advantage of those to actually push forward the resilience effort. At this point, we are calling upon cities in stage C that have achieved the above milestones to act as mentors and share their experiences as for motivating the stage A and stage B cities. And beyond stage, once the city is in stage C and has accomplished all this, they may wish to also give back to society in a way. And for this, we have the Resilience Hub class of cities, which is basically cities that have already the political and technical commitments in terms of making cities resilient, and they also have the expertise and the interest to share the knowledge that they have and provide support to other cities as they progress along the resilience roadmap. So for a city to be in a resilience hub, or to sign up as a resilience hub, they need to demonstrate that they have good practices and they have innovative approaches to disaster risk reduction and resilience, and that they have successfully financed at least one initiative arising from the resilience roadmap. These cities also need to demonstrate the ability to generate useful DRR knowledge and tools and to disseminate them, and to also promote city to city and peer-to-peer or peer-to-peer knowledge exchanges either within the country that they're in or beyond. This really doesn't matter for as long as they're also helping other cities. And finally, they need to be able to invest a minimum of $25,000 in grant funding or in kind to support other MCR 2030 cities in their journey. And this could, I mean, this amount of money, I'm sure some of our local government leaders are wondering where this money would come from. But you could choose to pay it off as a one-time payment, or you can have it divided up into annual commitments. For more information about how to apply for the Resilience Hub, we're going to leave the link on this presentation that will be made available to you shortly after this session. I've mentioned that we have brought together a lot of partners to support cities in the journey of resilience. And some of the classes of partners that we actually have 3 classes of partners. So the first class is the core partners, who are the co-creators and the co-owners, if you can call them that, of the MCR 2030. And these partners include the C40 cities, ICLEI, IFRC, we have JICA, Resilient Cities Network, now called RCities, UCLG, UN Habitat, UNOPS, the World Bank Group, and World Council on City Data. And UNDRR is actually the secretariat of the core partners of the Global Coordination Committee. We also have a class that is the supporting entities. And these are basically the non-commercial entities I had mentioned earlier, including national governments and government agencies as well, development agencies, NGOs, CSOs, academe, research institutions, media, national associations of municipalities, and so on. And then we have the third class, which is the specialist service providers. And these are entities that are majorly private sector, but can offer technical one-on-one advice and support to cities that is in a specialized knowledge area, for example. And now when partners are signing up, please remember to actually be as specific as you can in terms of the services that you're providing, so that cities are able to quickly identify the partners that are interested in working with them in the area, in the needs that they have, the priority areas for that matter. Remember as well to commit to at least one of the 12 thematic areas of the MCR 2030 roadmap, so that again, we are able to, map the right cities to the right partners. Now, I'd like to make a special mention here on the role of national governments and also the associations of municipalities in supporting cities to move towards resilience. First of all, national governments need to guide and support the development of DRR strategies and resilience strategies at the local level, in line with what is happening at the national level. We've seen situations where, especially in our region, where national governments have very good strategy documents developed, but then there is a lot of unawareness at the local level in terms of the risks that are available. The population is predisposed to, the areas of priorities and what they need to do. And so we need to actually see that support coming in terms of guidance on how to do to carry out the development of the strategies, support with expertise from the national platforms, for instance, or from partners that are supporting the national platform, and also capacity development. Key here, again, is just making sure that local governments have the resources to go to complement the mandates that they have in disaster risk reduction. We also can see that national governments can also play a very key role in actually creating an environment that would allow for city-to-city exchanges and learning through already existing mechanisms. Those can just be leveraged and be used to also include disaster risk reduction and resilience as one of the agenda. We have seen that national governments can also be partners of the MCR 2030 and engage with other ministries that are not traditionally involved in disaster risk reduction. For instance, we've seen agencies that deal with statistics, or we've seen agencies dealing with local governments and urban development joining as supporting entities And this has really moved the agenda in the countries that have seen this kind of involvement going on. And so it would be really important to bring these partners, these other ministries together, so that practice can actually be replicated at the local level to increase both the vertical links and the horizontal links in the country. National associations of municipalities also can play a very key role in bringing, they already bring together the local governments, but then now they can use this platform to actually enhance the awareness of disaster risk reduction and therefore scaling up the impact of MCR 2030 in the country, in their country. At the end of the day, all this information that I've shared and more is actually available on the website. And again, I will leave this slide on the bunch of slides that will be shared with you so that you can go to the website, get more information on the MCR 2030, and please do connect with us. In case of questions or comments, interesting areas or proposals to collaborate, please do write to us and we'll be happy to engage with you. Thank you so much for your time. And Taryn, please back to you for you to continue the session. Thank you.
Thanks, Isabel, and for that introduction to MCR 2030. So we'd just like to take the opportunity now, while we've got you, just to ask you, from your side, what do you think are some of the quick wins for national agencies in terms of joining MCR 2030 as supporting entities?
Thank you, Taryn, for that question. So first of all, what we've seen already going on is that national agencies or national governments have been able to better quantify where the local governments are at in terms of disaster risk reduction. There is a huge gap in terms of the mechanism, the coordination mechanism when it comes to disaster risk reduction and resilience, and of course, other development agenda between the national and local level. And this has really been a plus to help national governments in that sense. The second area we've seen it happen help is the fact that now national governments are able to identify priority areas for the local governments in terms of trainings and capacity building, because these are resources that they already have and programs that are already ongoing. It's just that they need to be tweaked a little bit to actually suit the actual needs of the local governments. And the third advantage we've seen is that now there's a huge change, a huge shift in how local and national governments interact when it comes to the resilience agenda. And there's now more learning coming from the local level to the national level in terms of what can be done and what they can achieve together. So it's actually very exciting to see this new paradigm shift in terms of moving from looking at local governments as these weak, vulnerable institutions to actually them being catalysts when it comes to achieving the goals of the Sendai framework, as well as contributing to the movement towards the sustainable development goals.
Absolutely. And I think that's the critical thing to look at is cities as catalysts and cities as the change makers, and that they have the ability to contribute to these national and international development goals and targets. And if you were speaking to a city or to a local government, what would you say are the kind of the key selling points as to why they should join MCR 2030? So what are those benefits? I think your presentation highlighted many of them, but if you had an elevator pitch, what would your elevator pitch be to a city to say, please come join us, be part of this journey?
Okay, so I'll give you 3 points for this. First key point is the fact that they get to have the knowledge of what they need to do and the areas they need to actually concentrate on when it comes to building resilience in the local government or in the city. The second is access to the tools and the knowledge from other partners and the other resources that are available. We have a lot of free trainings, a lot of free materials and methodologies and tools that they can apply by themselves, or just get help from partners to apply. And finally is the fact that they can get access to other cities in the same journey. We have cities in stage A, for instance, can get access to all the cities globally that are in stage A and are able to share the knowledge and also the experiences. And we've seen a situation where innovative solutions are actually born from these interactions. So for me, those would be like the key takeaway. I know there are many things that I have mentioned, but those would be the key takeaways and the quick wins when looking at the local governments. Of course, yesterday we had the local government stakeholder consultation, and one of the interesting things that came out is that one of the cities said that they have managed to, through MCR 2030 and through their engagement with the MCR campaign, they were able to build back the public trust to the city authority, which was quite interesting in the sense that the citizens now see that you're actually doing something to protect their lives and livelihoods from disaster events. And so that for me was very interesting in terms of even the leaders, the local leaders leaving a legacy beyond their terms.
Absolutely. And I think that's a critical point, that the MCR 2030 also offers the opportunity to cities to actually profile what they're doing. So a lot of the time things happen in isolation, and the broader world doesn't know about what cities are doing. And there's so much innovation and so much happening. You know, cities are incubators of change, and being able to profile what they're doing is a fantastic opportunity. And if you could, I think you just touched on some examples, but are there any other good examples that you would like to share from our region in terms of enhancing collaboration, and maybe how MCR 2030 has been part of that journey?
So we have, I mean, MCR 2030 as an initiative is pretty young because we started operationalizing in January of this year. But we're already seeing a lot of progress in terms of how the regional partners are also collaborating on urban resilience or local level resilience. We have been collaborating at the regional level for national government benefits, but we have not gotten to the point of actually having, you know, regional partners come together strategically to push for a local level resilience, and this is already happening. We already had the first regional coordination committee about a month ago, and we saw some very good commitments from these regional entities in terms of, you know, quantifiable and actual commitments on what they would want to implement and how they would want to implement it. And I think it's a good starting point for us. For collaborations at the national levels, we've seen, if I can mention some examples, one of the examples that comes top of my mind is Gambia, where the national agency, the National Disaster Management Agency, has been leading the efforts in bringing together the local, the cities, they call them, I think regional cities together to actually build their resilience. They have been talking about disaster risk reduction, but it has always been, here is the national strategy, find a way to implement it. But now they've seen a way to actually contextualize the content of the strategy and create their own strategy with their own priorities, which they now have a feeling that they can actually implement and will benefit their people. We have also seen in Uganda, where the Ministry of Local Governments and Urban Development is leading the efforts. And here, because they already coordinate all the cities and the regional cities and the other cities, districts, they're now using that platform to push the disaster risk reduction and resilience agenda. And from there, we already have about 10 cities that have joined in Uganda, joining the MCR 2030 and looking forward to actually implementing their own disaster risk reduction action plans. Again, going back to the regional collaboration, we have done some very good work with ICLAI. Maybe I should mention that. In terms of, by coming together, we have the expertise and ICLAI has the capacities, and we've been able to reach so far more than 100 cities in terms of helping them apply, you know, self-assessment tools and come up with drafts of action plans that can now prioritize actual, you know, movement in terms of what they need to do, and making some progress towards that. Being able to also quantify what they need to do and by when they need to do it, giving timeframes, and, you know, bringing that aspect of having a direction in terms of engaging partners at the local level, so they know we have partners XYZ. And so when you're coming there and you're saying that you want to implement an initiative, they'll tell you these are our priority areas. How do you think you can fit in? As opposed to having partners coming in and dictating what intervention they need to design. So it has also helped that co-development of initiatives with partners around the resilience agenda, which makes the projects more sustainable in that sense.
Fantastic. And I think on your last point, talking about the tools and the scorecards, I think that leads nicely into our next presentation, where we're going to look at the MCR 2030 dashboard. So I'd like to introduce our next presenter, Matarika or Mai, from the UNDRR Global Education and Training Institute. And Mai is going to tell us a bit more about what Isabel was speaking about just now, some of those tools, what is the dashboard, and how can we engage with it and use it moving forward. So Mai, over to you.
Thank you so much, Taryn, and also thank you, Isabel, for giving such a good lead in the introduction of what the Making City Resilient 2030 is, which makes it a lot easier for me to now go into the nitty-gritty of the dashboard, which is one of the tools the MCR 2030 is providing for the cities and partners who are joining this resilience journey together. And as Isabel has introduced, that the heart of the MCR 2030 is recognizing that cities are at different stage of the resilience progress and may need the different sort of tools and support and knowledge and whatsoever that many of the partners may be providing, but may have the limitation on and knowledge on how to get in touch with some of these partners. And at the same time, many of the partners have the tools available, but they don't know how to get in touch with the cities. They don't have they don't know which cities are ready to take the tools, and and so thereby limit the collaboration and the interaction in terms of taking the cities a step forward in the resilience building. So to support making that possible under the Making City Resilient 2030, there is this MCR 2030 dashboard that has been developed to facilitate the increased connection and possibility of the cities to be able to access many tools, and also for the partners to be able to interact with the cities. And so I'm going to be sharing you the presentation. So allow me to pop up the presentation at the moment. And there we go. So here, Making City Resilient 2030 or MCR 2030 dashboard is actually a closed online platform, as I said, that has been developed to facilitate the interaction between the cities and the partners. We use the term participating entities to call the partners joining the MCR 2030 endeavor. And it's there to support the cities to know where they are on the resilience roadmap, help them to be able to record and monitor the progress along the roadmap, and be able to share also, and what Taryn also mentioned about profiling the experience, profiling what they have been doing so good, and the lesson learned they have been doing on the resilience journey, and share with the regional and global partners and the cities around the world. On the other hand, the dashboard is known as the marketplace, and a place where we keep the directory and the registry of a lot of the potential service provider and all of the participating entities and their services, so that it's easy for the cities to be able to navigate through and get access to. So by joining MCR 2030, it actually means to get access to this online dashboard. And you can access that online dashboard through the URL that is appearing on the presentation at the moment. Who can join and access the dashboard? There are actually two categories of the users of the dashboard. One is the cities or local governments. And we use the term cities just for simplicity to refer to any sub-national local government unit. So it doesn't have to be big in size. It doesn't have to be big in number of populations. It can be municipality, town, district, province, state, or however your boundary, the legal boundary of your local authority may be. The other group of the user is the participating entity, which are basically all the partners, and we can classify them as what Isabel was showing earlier. One group is the core partners, who actually co-created the Making City Resilient 2030. The second group, perhaps the largest, is the supporting entities. So this could include national governments, development agencies, NGOs, civil society organizations, academia, research institution, can be national associations of municipality, and many other that have the expertise, have the service that could be provided to the cities and help them to move along the resilience roadmap. The third category is a specialist service provider, often perhaps largely the private sector, that have not yet been much involved in the process of risk reduction and resilience building, and often charge the fee for the service. But many of these private sector entities, there are the experts to be able to support the cities to do perhaps, for example, resilience infrastructure, and many of the sophisticated knowledge and technologies that local governments may not have, and many of the usual NGOs and traditional agency may not have. And by engaging them through this directory and a dashboard, will also enhance the possibility of the cities tapping into their expertise, and also increases possibility of the private sector increasing their role in risk reduction in the cities that they are located in. Now, before I go on into how you can join the dashboard, I want to walk you through a little bit with a glimpse of what you can actually do on the dashboard and what kind of benefits you will get if you join and have the access to it. So let's look at first from the city's perspective. Once you log on and get the access to the dashboard, you will get this resilience roadmap and also the explanation of the key milestone that you would have to do and should focus on doing to ensure that you increase the profile of your cities in that particular step and be able to progress along from awareness raising into strategic planning and into strategic implementation of the resilience planning and DRR strategies. They are able to also record, monitor, share insights of how they have been completing some of these milestones so that other cities and other partners around the world can also see their achievement and experience. They also can use the dashboard to search for specific service and partners available. And the dashboard allows the cities to demonstrate the progress they have made along the resilience journey. So the city can enter at any stage. Some may be at the infancy stage of trying to understand and raising the awareness on risk reduction and resilience. So they may enter at stage A. But once they are able to complete this critical milestone in terms of, creating the awareness event with the government agencies, with the city council, with outside of the government agency himself, and be able to establish a multi-sectoral committee on resilience building, then they can also move onward into becoming the stage C cities to then focus on improve the agnostic on understanding risk, understanding resilience, conducting the resilience assessment, and also be able to develop a strategic disaster risk reduction plans, a resilience plan. And then move on to also being the stage C cities to start to put those plans into the actual implementation. And by sharing the insights of how the city complete each of these critical milestones will automatically give them the step, like the progress moving along the resilience roadmap on in the dashboard. And the city can decide if they have the 3 critical milestones to complete. They don't have to go in order. They can go whichever way that they feel that is suitable to the context and decide on how they can proceed and can share the experience and demonstrate this progress. Now, cities can search not only the service in particular, but also in the participating entities on what expertise that they have, which one are matching with the needs of the cities. And they can also search for the guidance provided by the national government entities and many other helpful information, including also the insights shared by other cities around the world, and also the services provided by the Resilience Hub. They can also, as I said, share insight, showcase the progress, And you can also reach out to other cities, learning from their experience and be able to contact them to do the more in-depth exchange and learning among each other. There is also a country page developed under the dashboard that you can actually browse and see the city progress, not the city progress, the country progress, like in this case, Brazil. Then you can see how many cities in the country has joined the MCR 2030, which stage they are, A, B, or C, and whether they have any improved movement or progress moving from A to B and B to C, and sharing many insights or not. And we can also see how many partners who are located in these countries have joined and are ready to provide a service for the city. The cities can also download the certificate of participation in the Making City Resilient 2030, and they can use for also increasing publicity and also in promotion and engagement with the citizens and many other sectors in the cities in this endeavor. The dashboard is created one dashboard for one cities, but you can actually bring in more users into this dashboard space. So let's say if I'm joining the dashboard from city A, I can also bring more of my colleagues in my cities to join the dashboard, and they can all have the access and be able to search, browse, and do and use any other functions available on the dashboard for to help improve the city's resilience. Any information that the city input on the dashboard is editable. So they can always come and update the profile and make sure that they have the most updated information that they want to share to other cities and partners available on the dashboard. Now, on the other hand, participating entities, once they access the dashboard, they will definitely be able to list their service available. They will be able to classify the service according to the 12 thematic areas of the Making City Resilient 2030. They can also list the type of the services, whether it's technical assistance, whether it's training education, whether it's grant and loans, or whether it's just a free tool and guidance that anyone can have access. They can also search for the cities. And we also have experience of the case when we want to look out for the cities that have particular interest. And we were able to find some of the cities with those needs and interests, and we'll be able to reach out. There is also the contact button that you can basically click and send the email both ways. Participating entity can send the emails to cities, and cities can also send the email to participating entities that they want to collaborate. So it's a space where we see that have the potential to be like the marketplace for the cities and partners to be able to see each other and increase the chance of collaboration in the resilience journey. So for participating entities, once you are on the dashboard, just to make sure that you list the service, because this will be what helps the cities to easily find you and increase the chance of collaboration. Now, coming back to after you have seen a little bit of what you can get in the dashboard, how you can then join and access the dashboard. So the steps for the local governments and the participating entities are slightly different. Firstly, for local governments, you would have to take the stage assessment and prepare a letter of commitment. And we have the detailed guide provided here. So in stage assessment, I'll talk about that in the next slide. Then they will have to create the prevention web account. Then once a prevention web account is created, you can come and create the dashboard account on the dashboard space and continue to complete the detailed profile and start using the function of the dashboard. And I will give you the demo of how to do that in a second. For participating entities, you don't have to do this data assessment. You can go right into creating the prevention web account and then come onto the dashboard and create the organization account on the dashboard and continue to complete your, not the city detail, apology, is organization details, and start to list your service. We also have the detailed guides available in this URL if you, when we share the PowerPoint to you, and you can also access the link to check out. Now, with the interest of time and within this session, I will highlight a little bit of more details about how the city can join and have the access and be able to use the dashboard. So let's come back on the journey of the cities. First step first, you will have to take the stage assessment and prepare a letter of commitment. So the stage assessment is very simple. Just simply click the link here and go to the stage assessment. It is a simple 2 questions, yes and no answer. And once completing that, the stage assessment will pop up you the result. Which stage are you in at the moment? And you will see also some more information that you can learn more about the stage, and also the button at the bottom to download the sample template of letter of commitment that you can get your mayor to sign. Now, it's important also to note that the cities that have joined the previous Making City Resilient campaign in the last decade, you're not required to prepare the letter of commitment, and you can fast track joining by just taking the stage assessment and go right into creating the prevention web account and log on to the dashboard. The cities that also have been certified with the ISO 37123 also don't need to use to issue the letter of commitment from your mayor, but you can also use the ISO 37123 certification in replacement of this letter of commitment. Now, so when you have that ready in hand, go on the prevention web. And one step before going on the prevention web, decide among yourself within the cities who in the cities will be creating the dashboard account. It can be anyone from the government office, and the person will be responsible for just creating the profile on the dashboard. And they will have the right to be able to add many more members of your cities to join the dashboard once the account has been created. Then go on to the prevention web and started to do the registration. So we have the video demo here that I will play, and I will give you the explanation of how the step is done. So first of all, go to the preventionweb.net and register for the user. Input your email address, input your name, first name, last name, fill in also the information about your organization and the position. Then you have the choice to choose whether you want to subscribe to the Prevention Web newsletter or not. And then just click I'm not a robot and click create new account. Once you click the button, if successful, you will be returned to this page with the green ribbon at the top saying that the welcome message has been sent to your mailbox. So just go to your mailbox and find the email that comes from Prevention Web. Check also your junk mail and open the email and just click the link that is provided in the email. That link is a one-time login. You just simply follow the instruction and click login here. It's a one-time login that will give you the access to finalize and complete the Prevention Web account creation. What you need to do here is just fill in the remaining information that has been missing. And the most important step is to set your password. The password here has to include letters, uppercase, lowercase, numbers, punctuation. It should not contain the vocabulary that you can find from the dictionaries, and it shouldn't contain any simple pattern like 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1. Once you have that done, just click save. Then there we go, you get the green ribbon again at the top of the page saying that the user registration has been successful. It takes only about a minute to do it. And once you are done, you can move on to the next step. You now have the Prevention Web account ready for use. What you have to do next is now go on the dashboard. And there is another video demo here. So the dashboard account URL is MCR203 dashboard.undrr.org. You basically go into that URL, scroll down, select that you would like to join as local government, and click next. Then here it will ask you to double confirm that no one else in your city has signed up. So you just click no one else has signed up, and just click the button, let's get ready here. You will be prompted to now log in with your prevention web account that you just created. If you already have the account before, you don't need to do the prevention web account creation like the step that I showed before. You can just jump right in through this step of creating the dashboard. So you just put in your login detail, click login, and then it will pop this message saying that it's connecting you to the MCR dashboard. Now it's time for you to fill in the information about your cities. So you can drop down and search the country where your city is located, or you can type also the name of the country and select it. You can now drop down and select the state or province your cities belong to, and now input the city name. If it's not in the list, just click not in the list and manually type your city name in the box. Then it will ask you whether you were the member of the previous MCR campaign or not. Yes, if you have been, no, if you have not. And click also and input the population number. You can also fill in also the information whether you were the certified ISO cities and also the stage result. If you don't know your stage assessment, that's okay. There's still the URL for you to go back and complete the stage assessment. In this case, I'm a stage A cities. I have not yet been the member of the MCR campaign. So I'm uploading my letter of commitment here, inputting the information about the mayors, and click next. I then now have to review the information that I put. Make sure that you read the privacy policy and terms and conditions. If you agree to that, check the box agree and click join. There we go. It takes about 2 minutes for you to complete this, and congratulations, your municipality now have the account on the MCR dashboard and will be able to go to the dashboard to benefit from all of the information that have available and the function there. So from here, I would like to just switch a little bit to showing you the actual screen of how the dashboard looks like once you actually have the dashboard account created. So here's how the dashboard look like. I'm Emma Johnson that just created the prevention web account and also the dashboard account. I'm now in the dashboard space. You see here the top part is a stage progress, reminding me that my municipality in stage A. Here also is emphasizing that I'm making the progress in stage A. I can also see the figures and number of the cities and the number of population that have been covered by the cities joining the MCR 2030 endeavors. So you can see now you have a lot of friends. You have like more than 540 cities around the world joining and start making the progress on resilience journey together with you. You can see in the map the spread of the city that have joined. You can toggle off the play button. It will show the movement of the past 6 months of how the city have increased joining. You can also filter this with the stage. If you're interested to see only the stage A, that is also the peer at your level, you can also toggle. You can also move the cursor to see if here Brazil, how many people have been covered from the MCR 2030 cities, how many in each of the stage A, B, and C. Here you can also click to choose to view the country page. So here, let me try Africa. I want to see the progress of Uganda. You can scroll down or type letter U and click see the progress. Here it will show me in Uganda now, there are 7 cities and 2 organizations that have joined MCR 2030. Here's the cities that have joined. Of course, one is my cities that is a test city that I'll be removing in a later stage. These are the other cities in Uganda that have joined in stage A and B. You can also view what have been the experience sharing from the cities in Uganda. You can also see that the national government of Uganda has also joined MCR 2030. So here is Minister of Land and Housing. You can also click the link to also continue to see the details about the ministry. You also can see that here there are 2 entities located in Uganda that have joined. And you can click to view also what type of entity there are and the type of service available. If you scroll back, you can also see that on the left side, there are a lot of the shortcut menus that you can choose and use. But I would like to just go back to the main dashboard at the moment, just to highlight that if you scroll down, you also will be able to see the resilience roadmap, reminding you that you're in stage A, that the primary focus at this moment is to actually understand and raise awareness about what risk reduction is and build resilience, and also trying to also work on in linking and connecting with the national government, creating the connection with the city partners, and also between other cities. It also gives some introduction on what city in stage A means, and some more information that you can refer to on how to use the dashboard and how, like, what stage A actually means, and also a button to go and complete the city profile. There are also these cards at the bottom that reflects the critical milestones that your city should be focusing on doing, and report the progress, sharing the insights. So here with the tick mark is the ones that my city have already reported the progress and shared the insight. If I want to showcase also here, let's say if I want to have already conducted awareness raising with the agency outside of the government office, it could be from citizens with the private sector or any non-government entities, I can also click complete and start to fill in the details about what I did to conduct this awareness event on publicities on resilience outside of the government entities. I can provide also what I see as the benefit of doing these activities for my cities, the challenge that I may face, and also can select the type of service that helped you. So maybe you get the support from other partners that help you to conduct the learning module, to create the orientation workshop with the non-city council. You can also tag the service providers. You can also tag that this service is about raising awareness, tag about which particular hazard that you're focusing on, or if not, you can click the last one that is multiple hazard approach. You can also type and must type and share the reference materials. It could be the agenda of the workshop. It could be like the news piece about the outcome of the workshop that you have done with this orientation session, and then click mark step as complete. And as you completed all of these steps, let's say in here I'm in stage A, I have 3 critical milestones to complete. If I am able to complete all the 3 check marks here, then I'll be moving onward to stage B, and my stage progress at the top will automatically be changed from A to B, and I will be able to unlock many of the service providers and see the service provided by the partners for the stage B cities. Now, you can also do the shortcut now that I want to go ahead and start to do some activities to make sure that I help the cities to improve awareness raising. I could go to the left side, stage A, to browse for the service available. So these are the total service available for stage A. Some of them may be matching me, but some may not, because some are located in the region that are not located here. So in your region. So you can also do the search filter to find exactly by the type of organization you want to partner with, whether you want to have the fee-based or the free service. You can select the type of service available, whether it's the training, education, the research analysis support, whether it's the event participation, self-service too, and etc. There are many types that you can browse through. Also, the thematic areas that you want to focus on, awareness raising, connecting with the national government, horizontal linkages, or city to cities. Or you can also browse the service available only in your country. So in this case, my city is in Uganda. Then you can apply the filter. So now the search result will pop up only the service available to cities in Uganda. Well, if you feel it's still a little bit too many, you can also focus on, I want to focus on awareness raising, and I want to look at particularly the training indication, apply the filter. Now it's screening in only just 4 results. And then you can click and see what kind of information that each of the partner is providing. Like in this case, the webinar about the developing local sustainable finance. There is also the link that would go to the service. So in this case, here is like the video recording of the session about this webinar. So you can also view and benefit about it. You can also download the information that each of the partner has been providing. And if you're interested to connect with the partners to collaborate further, you also have the option to send them the email. So this is the example of how you can do in terms of searching the service. You can also search for the cities. If you want to look for the city in stage A, again, you can also utilize the show filter, search the cities in particular region, particular thematic area focus, particular steps that you may need to get help with, and apply filters. Then in this way, you also will be able to slice and dice the search engine to find the cities that match what you want to find out about. There is also the Resilience Hub, who are the cities in stage C that are providing the service to other cities. So you can always click and see what the cities is about. And later on, they will be listing the service that they have available for the cities. And you can continue and send email to the city and initiate the collaboration, city to city learning from the hub, for example. You also are able to come in and edit any of your information about the cities. And also you can download the certificate of participation for the city here. You can also view how the city profile is looking. If you want to edit, just click the pencil mark to edit the information and save. And you can also add team members. So if I want to, for example, if Isabel is on my team, I can just type in Isabel's name here, assign them the permission, administrator or user. They all have the same access to the dashboard, except that the admin will be able to add new users. The users will only be able to use the function, will not be able to manage the teams. And just simply invite the team members and make sure your team member create the Prevention Web account. And once they create the Prevention Web account, they can just come in and log into the dashboard anytime. If you want to leave, you can also click Sign Out here. And you can always come back to the dashboard. And if you want to now go back to see the dashboard of your cities, you just click on the top right-hand corner on Sign In. And just sign in with your Prevention Web account and click Login, and you will be taken back to the dashboard, and you can continue to use the journey, the functions to continue the journey on the resilience roadmap. So that's a very crash introduction on the dashboard usage, and we'll be very happy to take any questions, and we'll be continuing to develop the video demo and also the how-to guides on how you can use the dashboard so that you can refer to it anytime at your convenience. And we'll be sharing them on the MCR203 website. And so we'll drop the link, and you can always come back and check for more information for your reference. Thank you.
Thanks, Mai, and thank you for that wonderful introduction to the dashboard. We have a few questions which we'd like to start off with. So one delegate was wondering, where states and local governments are autonomous, is there any advice you'll give on how to get these subnational governments to join the MCR campaign? So where states and local governments are autonomous, is there any advice you'd give on how these subnational governments can join MCR 2030?
So we have different ways of engaging with the cities in many countries. We also have like what Isabel was showing about the case of Uganda, that the cities was joining the MCR 2030 because of the introduction through the Ministry of the Local, I'm sorry, I forgot the name, Local Government or Urban Development, right? And similarly also in other regions around the world, Jamaica actually have just engaged with the cities that also are autonomous. That all of them have been included and joined the MCR 2030, 14 of them, I think. and it's under the guidance of the national government. In Asia, we also have the Philippines that actually kickstart the MCR 2030 Philippines program that is led by the Office of Civil Defense, and in collaboration with the the office is in charge of local governments, and they actually now is working on institutionalizing the mechanism of MCR 2030 in their national disaster risk reduction and management. If I have the name correct, like National Disaster Risk Reduction Management strategy or some sort of like the national framework. And they would want to utilize the MCR 2030 as the tool to get the cities to make sure that they know where they are on the resilience roadmap and be able to tap into the partners that they have not yet tapped into. And that the government also would be able to utilize like this many benefits that we have on the dashboard for the cities to also share the experience and showcase, more examples from the Philippines to the other regions of the world. So in that case, I find that it's very sustainable in a way, and also very constructive, because now MCR 2030 is not just like one city trying to do something on their own without being acknowledged by anyone else, but now it's kind of getting integrated and getting recognized into the national program, and so thereby strengthening the national and local linkages. And so, we also know that the national governments also have the mandate to report with a lot of like global mandates and deliverables, and a lot of time they don't have a lot of information from the local authorities. So this kind of like interaction and using the Making City Resilience, and particularly the dashboard mechanism, will house a lot of examples and house a lot of the insights shared already by the local governments that the national government can just come and pick out and make the narrative and be able to highlight them. So it's a win-win situation also with the national government and local authorities. And so I would encourage that many more of the national governments take a look at what MCR 2030 is and what they can actually benefit from the use, because the platform is often open for anyone to use, and we don't have anyone to, screen or block or be the mediator for anyone to contact each other in this space, right? We as a secretariat help to facilitate making this possible, and it's up to the national government and the cities themselves to decide. These are free service. These are the things that you can benefit from. So see for yourself what you want to do and make use of it, so that you can continue on the resilience journey and be able to keep it sustainable. Yeah.
Fantastic. So it's almost like there's those multiple entry points, and I think if a city has any questions about the sign-up process, they can also contact the Secretariat. I'm sure those details would be in the chat. But I like the reference to the multi-level governance that Isabel was also speaking about in the beginning, and trying to foster those linkages. And it sounds like this is almost like a workspace that can really facilitate that engagement and hopefully promote and enhance that engagement between local and national.
Yep.
If I can just also build on that, Taryn, sorry for a minute there. I think it's also important to mention that while the word cities appears in the name of the initiative itself, we're basically we've opened it up not just to the definition of cities as we know it. So we're not limiting in terms of the geographical size or the population of the city, but we're basically now supporting all local governments. And here by local governments, we basically are referring to all the sub-national administrative units. So including, municipalities, towns, villages, districts, provinces, states, in some cases, even villages, if they have, I had mentioned villages before, if they have the capacity and the interest to actually tap into the resources of the MCR 2030. So we are happy to work with all sorts of sub-national entities.
I think that's a very good point from the kind of perspective of reaching those national targets, is that you can have a city or a village or a town, but you can also have the district and the national. You've got those different levels, and this creates a platform for those different administrative levels to engage with one another and to also track their progress and hopefully to collaborate moving forward in terms of reaching the targets. That's a very good point. Thanks, Isabel. And if I can ask perhaps, in terms of, so obviously we've now got MCR 2030, and we started off with the Making Cities Resilient campaign. So if a city or a subnational government signed up to the Making Cities Resilient campaign, and they've had a change of leadership, do they need to do anything in terms of the dashboard? Do they need to, on the administrative side, how do they overcome that and make sure that they're up to date and signed up?
Well, I think we keep the entry point to MCR 2030 very simple. So if the city has demonstrated the commitment in the Making City Resilient campaign, right? So they can simply just sign on into the dashboard and just mention that they have already made the commitment, and just can go right into the dashboard and to continue what they have left off. Yeah, without having to submit again the letter of commitment. Yeah.
So it's quite an easy process just to make those updates. Wonderful. And many countries are finding it challenging to report on Target E. So Target E being that we really need to increase the number of countries and with both national and local disaster risk reduction strategies. So how do you see MCR 2030 being able to leverage and help this situation? So help countries as well as subnational governments.
Right. So I think one of the clear points that we can bring in the MCR 2030, particularly the dashboard, when we get to see how many cities are in stage A and B and C, this is where we can see which cities are still not meeting target E, right? So city in stage A are in the awareness raising stage. City in stage B are still planning and doing the planning and have not yet the plan, have not fully developed or endorsed the plan, right? So meaning that city in stage A and B literally have not yet met the target E of the Sendai framework. City in stage C are those cities that have already had the plan developed and now into the implementation stage, right? So I can see very clearly that through the resilience roadmap and also the MCR 2030, if we can see how many cities are in A and B stages, these are the cities that would need their priority is to actually enhance awareness raising and be able to improve the skills to complete the plan development, and thereby will help the national government to report on the targets. Now, if we are able to see as a partners stage A and B, and as the organization, like for example in UNDR, I'm from the Global Education and Training Institute. We have capacity development programs that can support the cities in stage B and A in terms of understanding risk reduction and be able to apply the disaster resilience scorecard for cities to run the resilience assessment and use that to develop the DR plan, right? Meaning that it also helps us to see who would be the primary target group that we should prioritize the support to. At the same time, the cities also should demonstrate that they want to strive, right? And also the national government also need to demonstrate that they want to support the local government to complete the development of DR strategies. So they can also use the dashboard to filter and find which partners have the skills and the expertise available that can help the cities in their countries to develop the plan, right? And so this kind of dashboard can actually help to bridge this gap and be able to also support the national government to identify, like if you see the gaps in your country and you need help, who should be the right partners to help you to do that, right? And so if partner is not reaching out to you, then you have the access. You also have to reach out to the partners requesting that here is what we're needing. Can you help us with this? Because this is a service you are providing on the dashboard, right? And so that will facilitate interaction. And we see that this will be the mechanism that would be helping also the national to bridge the gap of, having the more concrete information on which local government actually have the target E, they have the plan in place, meet the target E, who is not, and be able to bridge the gap and use those information also for their reporting. So the more,
I like that, the matchmaking side of things.
Yeah, so the more the national government see the benefits of using this and get the cities to be on board joining the journey, I can see a lot of opportunities that they can leverage and be able to use to fast track and and address the gaps that they see important.
I think slightly related to that, Isabel, do you want to come in?
Yes, let me come in, Taryn, because I'm trying to now link it with the national processes. So we've seen the Sendai Framework Monitor and how it has helped bring together the different partners at the national level for this conversation on how are we progressing on the Sendai targets. But then there still has been a gap in terms of how are the national level partners can I call them stakeholders, including the national, the local government leaders, as well as their partners, being engaged in the whole conversation on the progress of the implementation of the Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction. And so the MCR 2030, and through the dashboard especially, comes in to bridge that gap by offering, a mechanism that helps us see openly where we are at. So cities are, it's voluntary, but by you giving information about where you are in your city, then that opens you up to opportunities. At the same time, when the partners who are implementing in those areas see the gaps that are glaring, then they're able to also prioritize these areas when they're making their next year's work plan or putting together their next proposal. And so this would actually help catalyze the required action to help with the reporting, and especially of target E2, which is on the local government strategies.
Fantastic. And I think related to both what Maya and Isabel, what you both just said now, I mean, what kind of support, whether it's UNDRR or, as you mentioned, the partners who are part of MCR 2030, what kind of support do you see it offering in terms of supporting national efforts to bring cities together on MCR 2030? So I think you've spoken about a number of them, but is there anything additional that you see the dashboard and MCR 2030 being able to do to kind of foster that national engagement with cities?
Yeah,
so maybe
I think there are a variety, various ways to do it, and I would feel that each of a country context is different, right? And the MCR 2030, as you can see, is like the open and very inclusive. You can find your own, like how you want to fit in with what we provide. But let me try to give you a bit more specific example of what I have seen. So we have the case also of engaging and in discussion with the government of Indonesia that have also been like doing a lot of studying about the MCR 2030. They have also been engaging with some other partners, not only UNDRR, but they see the opportunities about MCR 2030. So what they did was they also partner with other agencies that have the funding to support them to run the stage assessment for all of the municipalities across Indonesia, right? Using the questions that we use to classify the cities in different stages. So just for them to also get the big picture understanding of out of like, let's say, I don't remember how many, like a sample of like 400 or 500 cities, like in across the country, on which stage they are, A, B, or C, and they do like the mapping, right? But of course, by understanding the mapping, it's just knowing, but it's not moving them towards anything. So they start to engage with the partners located in Indonesia. So one being UCLG. ASPEC, which is the Asian Pacific Secretariat of UCLG that is located also in Indonesia. And they have our also existing relationship with the national government, but the national government also brought them in to help because they have the expertise in working with local governments, and they are the agencies that bridge the mayoral network in the countries. So to help them see, okay, if there are stage A, B, and C cities, have been assessed, what could be the potential roadmap on what they see as a partner living, like locating in Indonesia, that can support cities in stage A, B, and C. And so they're crafting that at the moment, and they will be having like a national signed up event, recruiting cities in MCR203 and do like this consultative kind of process along the way. And so by doing that, we'll help to understand the actual needs of these different cities in the stages, and also understand existing partners available to give the service, and can create like a bit like a pilot or like the initiative something, or and UNDR also stand ready to also provide them with the capacity development program for stage A and B cities. So we also can chip in as part of that MCR203 roadmap for Indonesia. And as we identify the stages and know exactly like the key gaps, and then we can prioritize which partner should be brought in to make that national program a bit more constructive, and can plan the rollout in the next few years. So in that sense, I think it's by engaging in such a way, it also bridges the linkage national, local, and so horizontal, in bringing the right partner into the space, right? And so that's probably one of the examples I can provide very concretely at the moment.
Fantastic. And I presume those kind of case studies, or as you said, pilots, will also be things that can be shared in stories through the dashboard, so that people can see what other countries and other subnational governments are doing in terms of taking that approach, and maybe get some ideas in terms of being proactive, and well, this has worked here, so let's try it, but we can amend it from there. Isabel, is there anything you'd like to add from your side to that?
Yes. So what I would add on this one is it's a very good opportunity for us to boost the visibility of the success stories at the local governments. In our region, we have this culture of modesty. We're very modest people. And so we don't like to is it brag? Can I say brag? Is that an English word even? We don't like to boast or to take pride in the achievements that we have. And unfortunately, this does not work for us in terms of opening up opportunity doors. But at the same time, it does not help us motivate other cities to actually pursue resilience, because now they can see that you can do this and actually achieve something. So working with national governments has actually opened up the conversation on how do we start documenting the success stories in the different countries. And now the challenge remains being able to capture these stories in the different languages and making all these accessible, making sure that we cater to the different needs of the people, especially people living with disabilities as well. And also making sure that even as we talk about inclusion in the global frameworks, in the Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction talks about inclusion, we have the same conversation in the New Urban Agenda, we have the same conversation in the Sustainable Development Goals. But then how do we also bring this to the local level, making sure that when the local authority is approving, say, a 6-story building, for instance, they're taking into consideration all the people that can use that facility, making sure that it's accessible to people on wheelchairs, people who do not see, for instance, can also hear the alarms in case of a fire. So just bringing that conversation down. I mean, it's not down really, but just to bring it to that level, to be able to discuss practical and sustainable solutions has also been one of the results of engaging with national governments. I mean, the key to note here is, of course, given that our office, the Regional Office for Africa, caters to 44 countries, and we have our office in the Arab states that caters to also the remaining countries in the north of Africa. You can see that already we have limited capacities. And so we prioritize the requests that come in from governments, and we try to cater to those first, working together with partners. So it is very important for us to get the request, specific requests, especially if a government can tell us we want to have meeting building the capacities of our mayors or our city managers or our technical people in this area and this area, then that way it's better and it's more tangible in terms of how do we move forward, because you ask for it, so that means you're going to be accountable for the results and the follow-up actions. And so this is very important for people to understand that it does follow up from your commitment as a national government, from your commitment as a partner, and from your commitment as a local government.
So being proactive, the same way we say with disaster risk reduction, we're here, we're together, but we need to be proactive and build that commitment. I like that. So, I mean, we've spoken about national governments, but maybe if we take a moment to speak about civil society. So Mai, from your side in, the dashboard and MCR 2030, what's your recommended approach, or do you have some examples as to how civil society organizations can also engage with MCR 2030?
Yes, I think that's a very also another crucial point, because I think the traditional partners that we often find in the space of risk reduction and resilience are often NGOs or like CSOs, right? And equally, as the supporting entities in the MCR 2030 dashboard, I would also encourage all those who have the expertise to also come and join the MCR 2030 and list the service. And I think the reason why I encourage you to do so, not only just list your organization, but list the service, tell us what you can do, right? Because like there might be thousands of NGOs around the world, but maybe we only know about 10 of them. We don't know another 900, but we also want to be able to foster them to be have more engagement with many other cities that we maybe have the exposure with, but we don't know that they exist, right? But by joining the dashboard, it helps us to easily find who's available, who's in the space, and also can reach out to create a collaboration. Probably like on a similar tone, but not exactly, but I just want to share like the importance of why like I really encourage everyone to just join, list the information, right? As much as possible that you have the story to write on the dashboard, because this is like the hub of the information. And we have actually been reached out by randomly, like by someone, let's say, that they're looking for a recommendation of cities and partners in field XYZ, because they have some project and they want to prioritize engagement with them or give some scholarship for them to be able to attend and build a skill on XYZ. We don't normally know who they are like in the world, right? We may know like only the handful of people that we directly work with. So there have been many cases already that we come into the dashboard, filter and search the profile of the cities, profile of the partners that match this XYZ request that we have. And we actually have passed on the contact for them to also have access to this, scholarships or whatsoever that we have been approached to. And there also were many cities that we actually found through the dashboard information that have been invited to speak at some of the regional and global events on particular topics that we wouldn't have been able to reach out to them at all if we have not seen the information on the dashboard. Right? So that's why I think like having the information captured in the dashboard is very critical, and not only UNDR, anyone who have the access to the dashboard also have the equal information. So if you want to search and find, you can also search and find for the information for that could benefit like the network and be able to strengthen the partnership. So there are many plus that I could see, and so I do encourage all type of partner, including the CSO NGOs, also to join the space.
So call not only to subnational governments, but also to all partners engaged in this resilient space to engage with the dashboard.
Also academic and research institution on top of the CSO and NGO. I think they are very critical and could be like the specific arms to help local governments also to reach out to non-governmental sectors, communities, and build that inclusiveness of the cities. So, each of the partners, they have different type of importance and can really chip in different type of expertise. And we need you all, not only one. We need you all to in the space to make this possible.
I like that the advantages of utilizing the dashboard is really limitless. It's only how much you engage with it. There's all these facilities, so it's not just about going on and updating facts and figures and saying what you're doing. It's if you really engage with it, that's where you get the benefits, because you can reach out to all of these partners. It's got that matchmaking facility. So I think that's a really nice way of putting it. And all of these, civil society organizations, as you say, we work with certain organizations, certain people, but there's almost no country in the world where there isn't some sort of network, be it formal or informal, on resilience, on climate, on disaster. So bringing in the civil society organization, they can showcase what their services are, where their priorities are. There's opportunities to co-develop projects. I mean, yeah, it's the sky's the limit, really. Isabel, would you like to say anything on the CSO side?
Yes, please. I actually do like the conversation on CSO engagement because of the lessons that I've learned in our region in the last couple of years. We know the CSOs have, they're on the ground. They are literally on the front line in terms of reaching the citizens. In some cases, they reach the citizens better than the local government does. And so we've seen situations where when the local government and the CSOs actually collaborate, they're able to have very impactful interventions, most of them at very low cost. For instance, when you look at the stage A commitment from the cities, they're called to not just raise awareness among the city officials, but also among the citizenry. Now, how do you as a local government with your limited capacity, because one of the things we know about our local governments is that they have inadequate capacity when it comes to disaster risk reduction, aside from the fact that they have limited financial resources as well, leave alone ring-fenced resources for disaster risk reduction. And so because the CSO is already carrying out the mandate of raising the public awareness on one issue or the other, in most cases it would be wash issues or civic education and so on. It's very easy to also add the voice of disaster risk reduction to the work that they're already doing. And in this way, we are not just promoting the top-down kind of conversation when it comes to disaster risk reduction, but we're also fanning the flame of community-based or community-led disaster risk reduction, meaning then that any solutions that are coming up are actually informed by the knowledge and the lessons from the ground, from the community itself. So they're able to also have that voice coming back to local government and then back to the national government to influence policies that would now, in the end, also contribute to how the resources are distributed in the country, how the capacities of the local governments are built. And so that also trickles down to the impact that the CSOs will be having in the regional, in the countries as well as in the local governments. So there's the engagement, the space for engagement is as wide. Again, as you just rightly said, Taryn, it's as wide as you are willing to go, because it's open, it's bringing together all these people. So the engagements are basically unlimited at this point.
Fantastic. And yeah, I mean, that's a good point to raise, that it's not just kind of essentially a good entry point for citizens to engage with the MCR campaign and to also bring in that bottom level up. So one thing we haven't spoken about yet is always the elephant in the room, is financing. So I think maybe if we go to Mai first, financing, Mai, is a major challenge for all subnational governments, no matter what sector we're looking at. So whether it be capacity development or implementation, or even just developing a local strategy, you need staff time, resources. How do you see MCR 2030 and the dashboard supporting that, be it through the partners? What are your thoughts for somebody listening from a city or from a subnational government saying, okay, that's great, but how do we finance this? How do we implement this?
Yes, very, very spot on question. And I think like the heart of the MCR 2030, why we are at MCR 2030 not continuing with the Making City Resilient campaign is really to move beyond awareness and, you know, into how to unlock this implementation and get the cities to move as far as being able to implement the resilience strategies. Financing is, of course, one of the critical factors that hinder us, and it has been plugged in as one of the key thematic areas of MCR 2030 for the same reason, right? And there are actually, when we're speaking about financing for resilience, I think the topic itself it's niche but still broad in itself, because there are many sources of finance that a city can have to take the plan into implementation. First of all, like whether they know the availability of these sources of fund, and do they know that they also have the ability to self-fundraise, right? Either through the government mechanism, allocation of the annual budget within the cities, how they can tap into the connection with the national government and make it the national agenda. And this is particularly why MCR 2030 is trying to create this stronger linkage between the national and local, so that resilience agenda is becoming one of the critical priority areas, and that would be able to facilitate the national government to fund local government to do activities if their national and local level planning are aligned, right? If national, you have the national level that have the plan to implement something, but most of the implementation take part at the local level. So if the local government doesn't get funding from the national government, how can they fund it to make the national strategies possible, right? So that also was like one of the channel. Thirdly, if it's the external donor, I think like a lot of the cities would look out for donors' money to implement a lot of stuff, but little do they know that because every city is looking for donors for funding. Donors don't have all the fundings to provide to all of the local governments. How can they build the capacity among themselves to be able to create the evidence-based, crisp needs that is reflecting really the reality of the cities, to make their proposal for the funding sharp and be able to sell to the donors agency? I think that's also one of the gaps that we see happening, and many tools are available by the partners will be able to help the cities to improve that capacity to be able to get to the point where they can actually have the financing allocated, right? There are also alternative methods, for example, bond issuance to recruit like the investor money into the pot for the local government to implement. But how much does local government understand the mechanism, and how do they prep themselves? Because it's not just trying to find a way to get the money, but investors also have to be confident that the government will be able to repay the money that they get or borrow, right? So how the city is demonstrating also the ability to finance and implement and create sustainability in what they are doing in terms of creating the credit ratings and etc. And I think a lot of local governments have the gaps in one of these areas, right? So there is no one solution to address financing issues. And it's not only the partners not providing the service, but it's equally the local governments that have to demonstrate that they have improved the capacity and be able to surface above other cities to get that kind of funding and trust from the donor and investor, right? So in MCR 2030, we see that as one of the biggest hurdle of the local government in terms of implementation. So we are also putting that as one of the key thematic areas, trying to recruit a lot of partners that have the capacity to support the cities to build the capacity to access funding, right? So this is a tricky part. It's not recruiting partners to give the money directly to the cities, but we have the partners that ready to provide support for the cities to build the capacity, demonstrate that they have the commitment And by having the increased capacity, then will help them to be able to tap into higher chance of getting the money. So in the dashboard, we also started to have a lot of the partners that also provide different type of technical system service, awareness raising, knowledge toolkits and stuff around the financing. So cities would also have to come and cross-check which one match them and how they want to improve their skills in accessing finance.
And I think that's a critical point is, whether we're talking about investment cases, whether it be or bankable projects, whether it's for one action within a strategy or whether it's for, a much larger implementation drive, we need to have data, we need to have robust proposals developed. So using the dashboard essentially as your house of where your progress is, what targets you're reaching, how well you're doing, actually gives you a lot of that data that you need to develop these projects to actually show that you can implement, that it's sustainable, that it's feasible in the long term. And I know from ICLEI's side, we've got the initiatives such as TAP and the Transformative Action Program, which essentially is, a project pre-feasibility pipeline. So those tools are there, and it's how much you engage with the dashboard. Those tools are there from the partners, and if you really engage with it, you can find those mechanisms that can support you moving forward. Isabel, would you like to add anything on the financing side?
Yes, on the path that you have chosen, Mai and yourself, the path that you've chosen to deal with financing, you left out accountability, and they need to actually think about accountability in putting together the proposal and how you're going to make sure that the project is actually implemented the way you said it would be, and how you're going to make sure it actually happens that way, and how do you do the reporting. But aside from that, I have a very interesting take when it comes to the issue of financial inadequacy for disaster risk reduction. Talking to mayors in our region, and some of the best practices that I'm really looking forward to documenting is one case from Quelimane in Mozambique. And so the mayor yesterday was telling us how they're using biogas to solve the two problems. One of the problems is waste, reducing waste pollution. And the other is reducing the depletion of the mangroves, So just like a quick mathematical question, how much does it take to put together a biogas project? You can use local materials, you can use already existing resources that are budgeted for infrastructure for the city and things like that. So for me, my take is starting the conversation is a good place. But also, can we share innovative solutions? Can we think outside the box? Can we bring together the different departments in the city, as well as our stakeholders, and think about solutions that may not necessarily require the shilling or the dollar or whatever currency we're using? Because the value of money, if we can speak now in terms of economics, will always be there for as long as it's scarce. Meaning, the issue of financial inadequacy is not about to go anywhere, and it is as old as the concept of money itself. So I think it's about time we stop really focusing on the financial inadequacy. I see Mai is smiling because she's probably never had this side of my story. But also, can we give priority to the quick solutions? Let's go back to basics when it comes to problem solving. Let's use local solutions because the problems are actually local. And you might be surprised at the kind of solutions that can come up from just having a conversation with your citizens, with the people on the ground. When it comes to awareness raising, they can tell you, why don't you tell the chief to tell the people, or why can't you use, there's a mayor yesterday, I can't remember who was telling us how for awareness raising, he's actually using religious institutions. You do not require resources for this. These are systems that are existing and they will continue to exist for a very long time. And these are already trusted personalities in the community. So people will listen to these guys and they'll actually follow what they say. So I think it's a matter of just reevaluating ourselves and the kind of work we are doing and finding a new way of solving the issues that are facing us using what we have for starters. And that's why when you look at even the concept of the resilience hub, it's not just about the cash contribution, but also the in-kind contribution. in terms of, can you take your time to speak about how you got to where you are, the kind of solutions you employed? How did you problem solve from, having a waste pile of I mean, a waste dump, for instance, in the middle of the city, such as what we saw a couple of years back in Kisumu City? How do you remove that from the city to somewhere else? What kind of solutions actually exist? And I think this would go a long way in trying to bridge the gap as it is right now on financial inadequacy. I'm not against, of course, us pursuing financial institutions and financial tools. Those exist for a reason. But I think before we get there, before we can demonstrate that we are accountable, before we can demonstrate that the need is actually evidence-based, we also need to collect the data that we need. We need to know, when you're talking about raising awareness among your population, do you know the size of your population? Have you disaggregated this data in terms of, do you know the number of women, of men, of, elderly people, children, boys and girls and so on? That disaggregation, do you know that disaggregation? When you're talking about accessibility to the awareness raising campaigns and information, do you know how many people are actually being reached by your information, say in English, for instance, or over the radio or on TV or by posters and things like that? So also going back and just like using numbers, because the data never lies. Data will never lie. So it's very important for us to also use the resources that we have to actually boost or to bridge the data gaps that exist.
Thanks, Isabel. And yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's also looking, as you say, at those low-hanging fruits. And I know our regional director recently wrote a piece, and she said, in these times of COVID, we need to rethink, we need to reboot, and we need to redesign. So we need to look at what we have and not reinvent the wheel, and see how we could move forward. We've got a few minutes left. I'd just like to address 2 operational questions. I think one of the questions is the dashboard only available in English, or is it available in multiple languages?
It actually is available in multiple languages. So if you go to the dashboard, there's a top right-hand corner that has a language drop-down selection. I think currently we have about almost 10 languages available. So definitely English, French, Portuguese, what else? Korean, like many others. So you can check out.
Fantastic. No, that's great. And if any local governments, as they're engaging with the dashboard, if they have any challenges, who do they reach out to for support on the dashboard?
Yeah, they can contact the regional secretariat. All the emails are available in the last slide page. And so if we are going to be sharing the slide, and they will have all of the information there. Yeah.
Wonderful. So I think with that, we'll bring it's ended up being more of a panel discussion to a close. But just to thank Maya and Isabel, thank you both so much for your time today and your insights. And hopefully people are incentivized and energized to start really engaging with MCR 2030, to sign up and to engage with the dashboard. So in terms of closing remarks, I think we'd just like to say ICLEI globally and in Africa is proud to be a core partner of MCR 2030 and to really support cities to build resilience at the local level. You'll see in the chat there should be contact details for MCR 2030 Africa Secretariat. So we'd welcome you to copy that email address and to reach out to Isabel and her colleagues in our African office for any help and assistance you need. And really use this as an opportunity, for a call to action. So MCR 2030 really can help cities to actively contribute to the Sendai framework, and specifically, the target E. Cities really are at the cold face of resilience, and they have the capacity to actively contribute to national and to global targets. So we invite you to join MCR 2030 and start your city's journey to resilience, whether you're just starting out or you've already made leaps and bounds and strides and want to demonstrate your city's progress. Please do join the conversation, take part in the journey to know better, to plan better, and to implement better. And we'll also be adding in a chat in the, a link in the chat to the survey on the MCR 2030. So with that, we'll be online for a few more minutes of the remaining time if anybody has any questions. But we thank you for joining us today. And we hope to see lots of cities in Africa joining up to MCR 2030 and actively engaging with the dashboard. So yeah, the sky's the limit, and we look forward to supporting you moving forward. So thank you very much for your time. And to Mai and Isabel, once again, thank you for your presentations and your engagement. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.